right, good morning. This is like the last shir that we're having in the month of Nisan. So the month of Nisan has been sponsored by Lyndon Serge American, commemorating the yortzeits of your Abba, Daniel ben Moshe Chaim, Zichrono Livracha, and your Ima, Esther Bas Yaakov Elazar. Yeah, I got the name right. And Miriam Bad Ze'ev, Serge's grandmother. And the Kram and Schaffner families, memory of their grandparents on their yortzeits, and by the Sturms, also in memory of their grandparents who are no longer with us. And Michael, thank you so much. In honor of the shining light from Shir David, this week has been sponsored by my in-laws, Benjamin and Barbara Selsky, in memory of my wife's grandmother, Bobby Pauline, Pesi Elka Bas Nachman Moshe, Stephanie and Charles Sakal, memory of Stephanie's grandmother, Sheinda Bas Eliezer Tzvi, and Tanya and Esther Berko, and Yair and Rachel Berko for the refuah shlema of Eliezer Pinchas ben Dvorah Zissel. Okay, good morning, everyone. We finished a bit earlier Shachris because there was no Tachlim today. That's the story. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvarav. We began a wonderful piece of Reb Tzadok on Pesach, seemingly just be about Pesach, before Pesach, and we didn't get to complete it. This is basically what we were doing was a perush on the first opening paragraph in Reb Tzadok Cohen's famous sefer Tzidkat Hatzaddik, an incredible and crucial sefer of Reb Tzadok Cohen. Many people, when they get into the Torah of Reb Tzadok Cohen, that's where they start, Tzidkat Hatzaddik. We began learning a perush by Rav Shabtai Rappaort on just understanding the beginning. So we're going to do a quick chazara, I meant quick, and go and move forward today, because even though what we had learned, it seems like whatever happened before Pesach was like 80 years ago. So I had to, I was looking at the perush and I was like, when did we learn this? It was like about 3 weeks ago, and yet it was mamash. I felt like 3 to 30 years ago. This is a very important piece, and it's going to help us very much understand Reb Tzadok Cohen's Torah, but I think for us, to give us strength to figure out how and where to begin to serve Hashem, even if we're under the impression that we've been doing it our whole lives. So again, we're going to read the first paragraph from Tzidkat HaTzadik, Ot Aleph. Reshit knisat ha'adam la'avodat Hashem tzarich liot bechipazon. The beginning, the entry of a person into Avodat Hashem has to be chipazon, fast. K'mo shematzinu Pesach Mitzrayim. Like we saw regarding leaving Egypt, shayan ne'echal bechipazon, that the Korban Pesach was eaten that night. It had to be consumed that night, bechipazon. Velo Pesach dorot. But this is not so regarding the way that afterwards we ate the Korban Pesach, which did not have to be consumed that night. Rather, you could have eaten it throughout the week. So again, leaving Egypt, fast. After that, slow. Eating the Korban Pesach. And Reb Tzadok is explaining to us the way that we eat the Korban Pesach is the way that we choose to enter into serving Hashem. This is true for Bali Tshuva, and it's also true for anyone that wakes up in the morning and has been from their whole life and says, I want to become a Baal Tshuva. Which, Baruch Hashem, most people here feel like that. The ones that grew up, kivyachol, religious. Second line, the middle second line, Mipnei she'ahatchala lenatek atzmo mikol ta'avat olam hazeh shehu mekushar b'hem. Because the beginning is about disconnecting yourself from all the ta'avot of this world that you find yourself indulged in and connected to. And when you have that moment of enlightenment, Reb Tzadok says, tzarich lishmor harega. You gotta guard that moment where you have that aha moment. Aha, meaning like, yes, I don't want to be like this, or yes, I want more of this. Reb Tzadok says, good, boom, jump into it, start doing it right now. What does the rational mind usually tell you at that moment? Rega, chakeh, you're going to burn out. Do it right, do it. Whatever you're taking on, what's the right word? Do it gradually. What's that? Gradually. It's got to be like, if you want a better outcome at the end, don't run into things, do it gradually. Akol beseder. It's like a person getting married and saying, I'm not going to love you like crazy now. I want it to be gradual and slow. צריך לשמור הרגע שמתעורר בו רצון השם, ולחפוז, Reb Tzadok says, like, grab that moment, על אותו רגע למהר לצאת מהם. Because maybe what? This could actually get you out of whatever you've been stuck in. אולי יוכל, maybe you can. ואחר כך שוב ילך במתינות ולאט כדין פסח דורות. But afterwards, after you took on what it is, that thing that you had that aha moment, then he says, you'll chill out. But the going into it, getting into it, signing up, joining the membership, becoming a member, boom, that has to be right away. Like we spoke about when we first learned this, now I'm remembering one prat. It's that there are many people that they've been hanging around the pool, remember, dipping their toes into the water, checking the water for 40 years. 40, Reb Tzadok says, if you know that this is what you want, right? You have this moment, you want to be in the pool. Go and get in the pool. Let's get in the water. Jump in. So it doesn't mean you have to keep on jumping every second to be in it. You're in it. Then learn slowly. So if you're Indian, if we're doing this like a mashal to learning how to swim, then slowly you'll learn all different, the methods of how to swim and how to stay up, how to stay alive, how to do it in a healthy manner. But the beginning has got to be jump into the water. The world tells us that's usually very, very wrong. That's what the world says. So the beginning of this ma'amar that I'm just going to read through the first two paragraphs, because we already did this, but it's good to remind ourselves, the beginning of this perush, this is a whole perush just in this first paragraph, is explaining to us that this is the way Yiddishkeit began. Pesach night, our evening, the night where, like we just spoke about in Shul, as a nation, we became a nation. It started like this. There was the jump. That's why Pesach is called Pesach, the jump. Hashem jumped over the houses, and he jumped over. We jumped also from Tumah to Tahara. It was a jump. Our minds could have said, you're not ready for this. You've been in Tumat Mitzrayim for all these years. You're not ready for this. And we jumped. The Jew that came out of Auschwitz, 1945, 1947 comes, the mind could have said, listen, you're not ready for this. What, 2 years, you're a free person? You think now you could actually fight? There it's a little bit different. It's not different because the Egyptians were running after us then, and our Yishmaelim have been running after us since way before 1947. But for now, let's just say 1947, right? But we see these moments of jumping. Shir HaShirim is all about describing the love that Hashem has for us. The love is like jumping from mountain to mountain in leaps and bounds, jumping through places, getting to places much faster than what we're normally accustomed to. Here, if we could just pass one more down. Look at Tov. So, he says like this, and I'm not going to spend too much time giving a pirush, just a precise translation for the first two paragraphs, because like I said, we did this piece before. הרעיון הזה הוא רעיון מדהים, מדהים בחידוש שלו ומדהים בעצם מה שהוא אומר. זה שפסח מצרים היה בחיפזון זה ידוע. Everyone knows. The way we ate Korban Pesach was very fast, it had to be that night. הוא מודגש הרבה בכתבי הארי הקדוש. This is emphasized a lot in the writings of the Ari. מה זה לפסוח? What does it mean to Pesach? It means to skip, to jump, לדלג. והארי הקדוש כותב שפסח הוא דילוג. That's how the Arizal understands the meaning of the word Pesach. מה פירוש דילוג? אנחנו דילגנו לקדוש ברוך הוא, והקדוש ברוך הוא דילג. God skipped to us, and we jumped to God, like the pasuk we just quoted. כל דודי הנה זה בא, מדלג על ההרים. הקדוש ברוך הוא דילג ואנחנו דילגנו. מה פשר הדילוג הזה? What is really this דילוג all about? כותב הארי הקדוש פשוט. שעם ישראל במצרים לא היה ראוי לגאולה. Anyone that has ever learned anything about, where Am Yisrael was, where the second before Geula began, knows we were not holding in yeshivish terms. We weren't holding. You know that term, right? The terminology. Where are you holding? That usually means what masechta are you learning, right? Like, where are you holding? We weren't holding. We weren't there. It's like a lot of people that say, this is so true about Aliyah. Wow. Where are you holding? I'm ready to come to Eretz Yisrael. even when everything adds up and it all makes sense. You don't have to jump? Do you guys remember, those of you that made Aliyah in the last few years? You don't have to jump? Of course you have to jump. For anything meaningful, even if it makes all the sense in the world, you still got to jump. Here we're saying, it's a different story. Here we're talking about how low we were and how much the jump happened when the rational mind tells you you're not holy. Who are you fooling? We know how you were talking yesterday, what you were watching, what you were doing, where your mind was at, what your life was like. Pesach comes and tests us. That's just not the way the Jewish action takes place. Nothing would have ever happened in our history of our nation if we didn't hold like this, right? This seems to be the way it's always been. So now jump to the next paragraph. As lachen Pesach Mitzrayim nechal bechipazon. That's why the Korban Pesach of the first Pesach was eaten in haste. Ma pirush? Al tachshavu she'atem haytem reuyim letzet miMitzrayim. Don't think you were worthy to leave Mitzrayim. Lo. Ela ze matana she'akadosh baruch hu natan. This is just a gift that Hashem gave you. Lachen tzarich lemaher velatzet. That's why you got to do it fast. It was a gift. Im titakvu od ktzat mi yodea ma sheyeh. And regarding the first exodus of Egypt, the voice in the background was saying, listen, if you stay here one more second, I can't guarantee that you'll come out of here alive. There'll be even a future for this people. And all those stories you heard about your grandparents, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, it was for nothing. It was for nothing because you're staying here. And you're not believing in me just saying, take this get out of jail for free card and just jump out of here. L'atid lavo, though, in the future, ha-geula atida lo tieh bechipazon. No kidding. No kidding. The future geula won't be so fast. See, I don't know if emunah means to just accept this to be, this is just the way it is, or to actually to use a little, the term was chutzpah equity that Leo was using the whole week, right? Saying that. Emunah means to look at this mitzias and say, no. So he says, echiti, third line. Now the fourth line, im avodah shelanu, la'at la'at b'hadraga. With thousands of years of work, gradually, slowly. מה זה אומר? זה אומר שיציאת מצרים הייתה עם מכות ועם משברים ועם כל מיני מאבקים, רצופות מאבקים. It means that leaving Egypt was filled with makot, with crisis, with all different types of struggles. Struggle after struggle, מאבקים נגד פרעה, ובתוך בני ישראל, struggles with Paro, and even בתוך בני ישראל, only a fifth came out, חמישית יצאו וארבעה חמישיות נשארו. And 4/5 stayed. The whole process was emergency surgery. That's what it was like leaving Mitzrayim, emergency surgery. אבל בעצם הגאולה לא צריכה להיות כל כך. הגאולה צריכה להיות מסודרת. But really, in the etzem of what redemption is, there has to be, it shouldn't be like this, there should be a seder for Geula. אבל לא היה זמן לסדר. Back then, leaving Egypt, there was no time to make an order and have a seder. So באמת היה ניתוח חירום. It really was emergency surgery. Then. עכשיו הגאולה העתידה היא באמת תהיה בסדר ובבניין. But this future redemption really will be structurally and orderly and in an orderly manner and fashion. Now, he says, זה פחות או יותר הדבר שכולם אומרים אותו. Everything we said. This is more or less what everyone says. כל ספר הגות שמדבר על פסח, מדבר על העניין של חיפזון של פסח, שהוא הצד ההכרחי, אבל הוא הצד של בדיעבד. He says, it's a very interesting thing. Whenever anyone looks at the story of Pesach and they explain it, they say, listen, it was b'di'evet that it had to be like this, nachon? Because we weren't holding, we were so low, and the only way to get out was like this. But really, lechatchila, it shouldn't be that this is the way a Jew begins their service of God. That's what all the Sfarim say, nachon? זאת אומרת, החיפזון של פסח, לאו דווקא במובן של לעשות את הדבר מהר, אלא אי הסדר שיש, not having an order, אין כאן סדר של התפתחות There's no order of development. Shel hachana likrat geula, of preparing for redemption. Zo hanekuda hashlilit sheyesh kan. He's saying that people usually look at this and say, this is the unfortunate side of the story that happened from the Exodus of Egypt. If it would have been like really not so bad in Egypt, we would have come out with a proper preparation. We would have been like menches. There would have been an order, v'chulei. This is what everyone is saying. Ela. נקודה הכרחית, אבל שהיא לא טובה. וצריך להתגבר על זה. And we have to overcome it. ויש היסטוריה שלמה כדי להתחיל לעבוד בצורה מסודמת. And now we have a whole history to start working in an orderly, seder manner. Now he says something crazy. He says, Reb Tzadok Omer, what was it? Oh, Freddie. Reb Tzadok Omer, the second to bottom paragraph. Hafuch legamre. Reb Tzadok says, do not look at the way we came out as b'di'eved, because things were really bad and had to be really fast. He's saying the Torah is telling us that it's something else. It's not b'di'eved. He's going to tell us that really it's lechatchila, that that's the way we start anything real in life. You hear this chiddush? If it's not clear, I want to make sure. Does anyone have any questions? The way we understood it, all the Sfarim understand it, is that it's b'di'eved, meaning the way we left Egypt is because things were really bad and there was no other way of coming out. And that's why it was so fast, right? And Reb Tzadok HaKohen is saying, don't think that that's b'di'eved. He's going to tell us a big chiddush. Hu omer, shemi she'amar kach, whoever says that the way we left Egypt was, well, it was aftermath of things, lo hevin et ha'inyan, or hevin oto b'tzora lekuya. Reb Tzadok is saying, if this is your parish of how we became a nation and how we left slavery, there's something lacking in the understanding. Yeah.
So how can you say that if God didn't want it to be that way? If he put us in that situation, it wouldn't prevent it.
Well, because you could say, okay, God wanted it to be like that, but that was just for them. He's saying it's not just for them. Then he's gonna explain this. See, I could have emunah and say, okay, that was for them, not for now.
Yeah, but not that it was a b'di'eved situation. Meaning, like, for them, it was the perfect situation. They needed to experience it.
Okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Maybe the question is like, can you say for us today, if this is how we operate, that it would also be b'di'eved, and that's perfect.
Well, but we're trying to adjust our plan according to what's being thrown at us, life, otherwise known as God.
Otherwise known as God, right?
Like,
life, otherwise known as God. That's what I'm saying. That's a great meme. You have to realize that. Life, otherwise known as God. That's so chazak. You got a copyright, call a patent. This is no life, otherwise known as God. Chazak. Yeah.
We made up that term.
Yeah.
God,
What?
but he's giving you.
We made up what term? Life.
No. He's the situation that you look at. Like this isn't the best, but I'm gonna make the best of it.
Yeah.
But I'd rather not. I don't know. Like example, Ken was talking. I had Dave Jerome because he makes always out of red wine, right? So
I'm sorry?
He makes kish always on red wine.
Yeah.
So if he has rosé, sorry.
Right.
Okay, and he's I don't know. I went on vacation. There's nothing else in the hotel. So it's not ideal, but that's what he's making it on. Meaning, like I'm looking at life and saying this is not ideal for me, but God is saying
you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Nachon. Okay, I hear that. Nachon. He's just going to explain now that those that say that it was b'di'eved, they still have emunah, but they're missing the point of why we learned the story like this and why we're told and why it had to happen so fast. Because those same people are saying, so that teaches you that really, if you have a Seder in your life, you should never do anything fast. And Reb Tzadok is coming and saying, oh, really? Really? To do anything real in this world, you've been able to do it without jumping? Think of all our plans we've had, like our moments of enlightenment and,
Getting married is
yeah. It's just, I always tell Chevra, when they get married young, you either get married young and stupid or old and stupid. But meaning when you get married, I was at a wedding. I got oxygen last night. I was at a wedding. It was so special. You can get married until Rosh Chodesh Iyar, right, in the sphere, and then you start from then. It's at a wedding of a very close friend, Eli Michelle's niece, Rav Judah Michelle's daughter. And the wedding, it was such chamtzan, this young, fire couple, mamash, young, right? So for them to jump and decide to get married is probably easier than the person that has to, like even when they meet the right person at a later age, to decide to jump. It's just easier when you're younger, just because you're thinking less. You are. You're thinking less. Even if you're very developed 21, 22-year-old, I'm not saying in a derogatory way that you're not using your brain. You're
thinking with less perspective.
Right. Not in a negative way or bad. It's just, it is what it is. That's life's experience. Is what it is. So I always, like, at any big junction in life, and Reb Tzadok is going to tell us, you see, at any big junction in life that makes a change, a jump, a Pesach is necessary, not b'di'evet. Not because there was no other way to deal with life. God. Ela lechatchila. Lechatchila. He's going to develop this idea. Listen to this. Again, he's quoting the first pasuk from Reb Tzadok. Tchilat reshit knisat ha'adam la'avodat Hashem tzarich liot b'chipazon. The entry, the beginning of the entry into serving God has got to be fast.
Just a question. Are we saying that seder is the opposite of chipazon? Is that?
Yes. For this shir, yes. Nachon? Yeah? Does that sound okay? I think for this learning, yes. Not always, but here, yes. That's good diuk.
You said impulsive versus planned?
I think, well, impulsive mitzad hu, like...
impulsive from the side of the party that is doing the chipazon.
Yes. Yes. As opposed to stage by stage, gradual plan. Right. Yes, 100%. זאת אומרת, שלא יעלה אדם על דעתו, שאני נכנס לעבודת השם, זה צריך להיות באופן מסודר. This means no one should think that when I begin in avodat Hashem, it has to be mesudar. That's the only way that I could start serving God. That everything is planned out and it adds up, and now I do this, now I do this, and now I do this. ואיך אני מפסיק את העבודה של עצמי על עצמי. And how do I stop the work of just me on me? איך אני מסתלק מכל הנגיעות שלי? How do I get out of all my negiot? Those are my, you have a negiya atzmit, like how do you say that? Ego. I mean, there's no other way. Yeah, your own personal issues. How do I invest in introspection? How do I invest behakshava pnimit, in listening deep down inside to what's going on inside? Listening to my own heart. Listening to my own song. וההכנה שהתפילה צריכה, and the preparation that davening needs, וכל הדבר הזה, צריך הרבה הכנה והרבה התבוננות. You need a lot of preparation and a lot of deep reflection and introspection, כדי שהדבר יהיה יסודי, in order for all this stuff we said about working on ourselves and getting out of our way and everything, in order for it to be really, really foundational, you would think everything needs to be mamash in an order, beseder, v'chol zeh. Omer HaKohen, Reb Tzadok says, lo kach. No. Reshit knisat ha'adam lavodat Hashem, tzarich liot b'chipazon. Amazing. Because it's so true. Why? How many of you have to-do lists that we don't even write them down anymore, but some people still do. But in our minds, there are to-do lists. Nachon? All the time. Just deep interest, not just washing something in the house, just goals and spiritual goals especially, right? And we have them etched in our minds, right? And the more that we don't do them every single day, the more we have a harder time living with ourselves, and they weigh on us like such subconscious guilt, even though who put them there in the first place? Me. I did. I could blame it on anybody else, but I did. I put them on me. And why do I never get through this list of the to-do list? The holy, heilige to-do list. The most heilige to-do list, right? Why did I put them there in the first place? Because I'm under the impression that I have to do this. This is the order of things in order for me to then really feel like I'm a real person and I'm doing something foundational, rooted, and it'll be everlasting. How many of us have gotten through all of our like holy to-do lists? Rarely. Till we crash. Chas v'chalila. He says, Reb Tzadok is saying, that is why beginning to serve God, the beginning, cannot have a to-do list in order to start. Because you'll never start.
Is he saying also that every day you have to begin with this enthusiasm as if you're beginning every time?
That could be the drush. The pshat is just like that entry into saying, I'm in. Now, it's true, we have to keep on saying that all the time. Like the deepest thing someone can say to each other, to the spouse, is, I'd marry you right now, I'd marry you today. But that statement is so powerful, such a powerful, why? It's the reshit again. It's basically saying, I jumped today. I jump in the water today. So in Yiddishkeit, I'm one chavrusa somewhere, not in Israel, on Zoom, and we were talking about this yesterday. It's like how many people that put on tefillin, it's a good example because it's every single morning, right? How many people stop and just say, Hashem Yisbarach, right now, I'm putting on tefillin right now, with all the kavanas and everything, because you want me to do this, and that's why I'm doing it right now. Just with basic consciousness of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that they would say, and I'm jumping into this right now, even if I understand it or I don't understand it so much. Reb Tzadok is talking about that aha moment, like we spoke about before, where I say, this is the life that I want. This is the life that I want. I know I want it. So Reb Tzadok says, yeah, you know you want it? What's the, I don't want to just say rational mind, what's the mind telling you? If you really want it, make sure you do it in a way that it lasts. And how do you do something in a way that it lasts? If it's all orderly, mesudar, gradually, stage by stage, right? That may be true to write a book report. Or to put your PhD together, right? To present your PhD, maybe for those things. But to join the membership, it's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. That's Reb Tzadok's chiddush in Avodat Hashem, in understanding the beginning of Avodat Hashem. Now, it's true, you have to keep on revisiting this all the time, with anything that you're passionate about in life. But the beginning was just like it was in Mitzrayim. Therefore, it wasn't b'di'evid. It was lechatchila, the way it came about back then. Meaning, it's not that Am Yisrael were so low, and the only way to get them out was if Hashem would just like jump them out of there. It's that they were teaching us for every generation to come afterwards that, hey, life is life. We can exchange that with God is God, right? You messed me up now. This is like, God is God, right? God is God, whatever, this is it. Like, this is what it is. It's always going to be a question of jumping in order to join for the real meaningful things in life. Always. This is what it is. Now look how he yes.
But okay, this is a good time to share something. So, the Rebbe is making the Hatzaddik river. So the story behind it, there are many stories that you can connect to it. One of my favorite was Tashdich. So with pouring rain, and generally the Rebbe would go to Prospect Park to
Tashdich, yeah.
So this one day of Tashdich was pouring rain. So the park ranger, wherever he was, he locked the park assuming the Hasidim wouldn't be coming. So the Hasidim get there and they see that it's locked. And so they're all debating, like, what's the next move? Should we head back? Should we find another place? And then all of a sudden, they look beside him and they see like what looks like an older man climbing the fence. And they realize it was the Rebbe. And so,
Mamash.
Yeah? He didn't stop and think twice about what the next move was.
This is the moment. This is the moment. Oh, let me think about this. Let me plan better. I should in order to make this work, may I contact the park ranger make sure that we figure out a plan for circumstances such as these of rain coming down. And then even if he says no, then maybe we should then bring your missing tashlich. You're not going to end up doing tashlich like that. Nachon?
This still reminds me of I was going to ask you like more, look it up on, I don't know where this guy comes from, what his background is, because it reminds me of like all these yuckies you grow up with, like everything has to be, versus like, but it's also like, even just like individual personality.
Right.
Like, don't have anxiety about it, just jump in. Like,
It's very interesting that you're asking this about Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. Because Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin was as non-Hasidish as you can get before he became a Chassid for many years. So I think it's interesting. Someone that maybe comes more from, that saw a different approach, lived it, identified with it, so maybe saw it in, not maybe, saw it in himself. You can only say Torah is like this if you see this in yourself, right? Sees it in yourself and then understands, this is not what we're talking about. This is not what it should be about. And then he comes in and says,
It also feels, when you get to what you're saying also, it also feels like the Yiddishkeit, I'm going to generalize, but I'm saying the Yiddishkeit between Israel and outside of Israel, often, what it can be, which is outside of Israel feels very Mesudar, like thought through, and when you don't have, like, impulsive has like a negative connotation, but when you don't have that spirit or that zest, like you do here, then it becomes very rational and logical, and I feel like that's why the Yiddishkeit is what it is here.
Adina, you're careful. You're sounding very Zionistic today. It's the season. It is the season. Okay, so now he's going to explain something which is going to further our understanding of different schools of thought within Yiddish way before Chassidut. We all know the Ramchal. And in Even Yesod, a book that every Jew has to learn is, of course, the Ramchal's Mesilat Yesharim. It's to understand really anything. You have to. The Mesilat Yesharim has to be part of our daily. All this from the Ramchal. I'm so happy some of the Chevra here have a Chavrusa. I think Matityahu is in it raining with Shachar about Marmara Geula. Was he learning with them a little bit in the beginning? They learn. I think they're still doing it on Sunday nights. The Ramchal is everything. Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato, he's everything. So, in Hasidus, he's not mentioned that much. But if you were back in the base medrash of different Hasidic Rebbes, certain Rebbes really would be clear they're basing what they're saying and how they're holding and basically understanding the Baal Shem Tov al pi the derech of the Ramchal of Mesilat Yesharim. So look at this next paragraph. Belublin chashvu. I don't have a watch on me. Do you know what time it is?
42.
Great. Belublin chashvu. Sha'aramchal hu ha'aba ruchani shelahem. In Lublin they thought that the Ramchal is their spiritual father. Meod yichshivu et Ramchal. Now when we say in Lublin, we have to understand what that means. It doesn't mean in the city of Lublin. He's referring to the base medrash of the Chose of Lublin, of the Seer of Lublin, who was a Talmud of the Noam Elimelech, right? And he was basically with the outburst of Polish Hasidus, it really came about from the base medrash of the Chose of Lublin, and then branched out to many different places. The Ikar, maybe what you could say was, for certain people, it was like Pshischa and Kotsk and Ger, Alexander, Ishbitz came from that too. But the base medrash of the Chose of Lublin was awesome, huge. So that's why he's saying they really hichshivu, they really thought highly of the Ramchal by the Chose of Lublin. Ei efshar lefi da'ati להבין את מה שרב צדוק כותב בלי להבין את הרמח"ל. He's going to say, no, I don't think we can understand what Reb Tzadok is really saying here without understanding something basic from the Ramchal. Reb Tzadok הוא פשוט ההמשך של הרמח"ל. He's basically just the continuation of what the Ramchal was saying. אבל... He's going to quote him in a second, נכון. אבל יש דבר אחד שאולי בו הם חלוקים בהיבט של ההתחלה. But there may be one thing where they are chaluk, where they are opposing, right? And that is regarding how you understand the beginnings. The beginnings. רב צדוק הולך עם הרמח"ל בצורה קיצונית יותר מאשר הרמח"ל. It's just like a way of speaking. He's saying Reb Tzadok is walking with the Ramchal. He's more Ramchal than the Ramchal in a certain area. And we're going to understand. B'Mesilat Yesharim Katuv. This is the opening of Mesilat Yesharim. And there used to be a band called Omek Hadavar that had a great song with these words. Yesod HaChasidut v'shoresh ha'avodah ha'tmima. What's the basic of living a pious life and the root of a complete service of Hashem? Sheyitbonen ha'adam ma chovato be'olamo. That a person asks and pays respect to the question of what's my obligation in this world. Not how halachic am I. That's clearly not, that's a given to all the Sfarim. He's talking about what is my purpose in this world. Why, what's my obligation in this world? ולמה הוא צריך שישים מגמתו בעמלו, אשר הוא עמל כל ימי חייו, and to what should I put my kishkas to work on in this world? That's got to be a question that I have to mamash spend time with all the time. משפט מאוד מפורסם, it's a very famous statement from the Ramchal, כל מי שלמד בישיבה מכיר את המשפט הראשון של מסילת ישרים. It's true. Anyone that learned in yeshivas, they could quote to you more or less this first paragraph from the Ramchal's Mesilat Yesharim. Meaning, how do I start? I have to spend time in deep introspection, figuring out what is my chovah, what's my duty in this world, and to spend time, and how to spend time figuring out that once I figure that out, how to spend my time investing my koach into developing, into that to manifest, right? Like I've told you a few times, I had many life-changing conversations with Rav Weinberger, but one of them was when he told me that it's amazing when a person ends up doing in this world what they want to do. Do you remember this line? It's a very interesting, a very deep line. He said it's a beautiful thing when a person ends up doing what they actually want to do, but it's much higher to do that which you're needed for. So I humbly added, I said, and when those two things are the same, it's Gan Eden. Like when you end up doing what you want to do, and what you want to do is actually what you're needed for, that's the highest, That is the highest. So the question is, how do you get to the realization of what you're needed for? So it seems, or even what you want to do, either of them. It seems that the Ramchal is saying, how do you get to that? Well, that takes time. You have to have deep hitbonenut. You have to have deep introspection on this matter. You have to think about this. It doesn't just happen like this awareness, nachon? So it would seem that the Ramchal is saying, well, the beginning of Avodat Hashem is Seder or Pesach Mitzrayim or Pesach Dorot. Dorot, take time, right? That's what it seems. But let's see how they develop this.
It sounds like it's both.
Shnia, ממש שנייה, because we're going to see this. מה אומר הכהן? What does the Kohen say? אתה מתחיל לעבוד? תתחיל לדעת מה חובתך בעולמך. You're beginning to serve God, you have to start to know what your obligation is in this world. מה אתה צריך לעשות? What do you have to do? קודם כל תעשה. This is so deep. You want to know what to do? How are you going to know what to do if you don't start doing something? That's why so many of us are stuck with all these to-do lists, because they're in our head, and we don't really know if we should do it or not because we didn't get our hands dirty, bichlal, in olam ha'asiyah. Like, how do I really know what music I really want to play or like until I start playing music? If it's still in olam machshava, how could I really know in this world that I'm created with a body, I'm in this world, how could I actually really know what I'm supposed to be doing? So Reb Tzadok is saying, brother, listen, it's great, you have the to-do list and it's very deep, and you'll get to the hitbonenut, the deep introspection of knowing what you need to do in this world. How? By doing.
So what would he say about Gilgal now?
Sorry?
What would he say about Gilgal now?
Who? Reb Tzadok, not the Ramchal. Reb Tzadok?
sense, right, that
this is going to be a very personal feeling, you know, what he would say, because most Hasidim probably wouldn't agree with me, but he would say, you did, and you did exactly that in 1948. And
it's still going through, I mean,
he's saying because you, maybe because he's saying because you, and then you stopped acting like 1948.
exactly.
Nachon.
So he would say like,
Again, this is my personal, this is, yeah. Yeah, yes. Yes, זאת אומרת, where is that, you know, where's the rage? Where's the rage anymore? Where did it go? Where's the rage over such korbanot in our neighborhood? Where's the rage? You know what it used to be? Do any of you remember what it used to be? I barely remember what it used to be. Healthy rage, not. Everyone's so nervous, he's going to start talking about axes and stuff. I'm not even talking about that. It's where is that very healthy, natural, and important function in us that was because Reshit Tchilat, because everything became too thought out. And it really hasn't gotten us that far. That, you know, I'm going to go back to what the Zionists of today said, what the Galut mentality is more, and it's true, it is more, it's infinitely more Mesudar, and part of us really wants that. Because it's cozy for the soul like that. But Reb Tzadok is basically saying over here, Kodem kol ta'aseh. Like, you got to do something with all these thoughts and all this introspection in order for you to know what your chovah is b'olamcha. As a nation, I think he would say exactly the same thing, but he didn't get to it. Anachnu od lo shama. Again, he's quoting the pasuk again, the beginning of the teaching. Reshit knisat ha'adam lavdat Hashem tzrich להיות b'chipazon. The beginning of entering service of God has to be fast. Lo lihitbonen, not introspection, velo lada'at, knowledge, lo lachshov, and not to think, velo klum, אתה קופץ למים. You jump into the water. לפני שאתה מכניס את הרגל למים, לדעת אם זה קר. ולפני שאתה רואה אם בכלל יש מים. ולפני שאתה רואה אם הם עמוקים, קודם כל תקפוץ. He said, before you know the temperature, where it's, you know, where there's the water, where it's lower, where it's higher, yet just jump. צריך להיות בחיפזון, לא בדיעבד. Not as a, this didn't work out the first way, so this is what we're going to do now. ולא בשעת חירום, not just in emergency. This explains a lot about Leo's, where he's been, the way he's been talking, and I've been telling the Chaver and Shul nonstop, unless you're doing emunah drills all the time, right? You can't be like this, meaning don't wait for a sha'at chirum to jump into water. Don't wait. Jump into water, not b'sha'at chirum. Consciously do it, meaning with a subtle mind. It's a jump, but it comes from a place of Yishuv Hadat. ולא שזה קרה פעם אחת בהיסטוריה. It's not just that jump, the Pesach happened once in history, אלא כך זה צריך להיות, right? This is how it should be. Pesach Mitzrayim is a dugma, it's an example, not for something that happens when you're in an emergency state, but rather, every time you want to enter into the service of being a Jew, of Avodat Hashem, all the time. Revisit it, constantly. שום דבר שקרה, in paragraph, שום דבר שקרה בהיסטוריה שלנו הוא לא חירום ולא מקרה. This is interesting. Nothing that happened in our history was not an emergency and it wasn't a coincidence. וגם המקרים וגם הכישלונות, even those things that seem to be coincidental, or even the failures, הם בעצם סדר. Exactly. It's exactly what you're saying. B'diato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Baal Emunah is, the real Baal Emunah is acting from that place. Rav Shai Shachter was alluding to this also in his words, if you listen to him. He was saying something very, very similar about this thing of how we could see a bigger picture, and what the puzzle looks like, because It's true. To us, none of this looks like a seder. Everything looks b'di'eved, nuts, nothing looks like a seder. None of us would have chosen to build the world like this. None of us would have chosen to create the chosen people like this. If we had to choose, right, write the outline or the script of the development of the chosen people, right, whatever that means, however we understand it, it would be the most mesudar, healthy, proper, gradual evolution of a people. Clearly, that's not the way that our script has gone. However, thank God we are not the ones writing the script. It'd be the end. The seder would have to fit us. And we'd be stuck in places forever that are just mesudar. And we would never live with the zest of life like we do here. And so it's very different. So listen, so now he says like this. This is very important. Here he's summarizing everything we learned today. God showed us on Pesach, the first one, how you leave Egypt. בחיפזון. אולי זה רעיון בכלל של פסח? אולי החיפזון מובנה בתוך העניין של הפסח? Is this just a Pesach concept? Is this just a דבר Torah you say on Pesach? He says, no, אומר הכהן לא נכון. שהרי פסח דורות אינו נאכל בחיפזון. הרי לך שהחיפזון אינו שייך אל הפסח. This concept of things being fast has nothing to do with Pesach, because the rest of our lives with Pesach, we don't eat it fast. We eat it slowly. So what's the Torah of fast shayach to? Beginnings. It's not a Torah. It's not just a Torah copy, Pesach copyright. You understand? The concept of chipazon is not a Pesach exclusivity understanding. It has to do with beginnings. That's what it has to do with. Hatchalot. וההתחלה צריכה להיות בחיפזון. And beginnings have to be done fast. אז אפילו שהדבר בעצמו דורש התבוננות והכנה, even if the thing itself demands a lot of preparation and introspection. ובאמת אדם צריך להתבונן. Of course a person has to have introspection. ובאמת אדם צריך להסתכל, and of course a person has to look. אבל when? When does a person do the preparation? When does a person do all the deep introspection? Once you're committed. Once you're in. אבל כל זה אחרי שהוא התחיל. Only after you started. לפני שאדם התחיל, מה תעשה התבוננות? Before you took on, before you're in the water, what will all the התבוננות, what does it give you?
You don't have a perspective.
There's no perspective. Where does it bring you to? תגרום לו לא להתחיל. You know what it'll bring you to? It'll convince you to never jump into any water. That's what it'll do to you. So therefore, we see what you see. Do you see what we've done? This is the first 4 lines of Tzidkat Hatzaddik. But it helps us understand Reb Tzadok's pulse of his teachings, a lot of his teachings. And according to a few Rabbanim, they say that if you want to understand anything about we should have started with this. That would have been a proper beginning. But at least we started. We would have never gotten here if we didn't, right? Often, but when I come to certain shiurim, this is like, honestly, I relate to this so much. It's such a yetzer hara to feel that when you're preparing a shiur, that you know exactly how you're preparing what you're going to say. And I've never ever been able to give any shiur of content when that was the way the hachana happened. Where does it always happen? Jump into start working with a certain idea. Just start working with something, and then the outline will come once you do hitbonenut, but only when you're in the shiur, not when you're outside the shiur. Only when you're in your mind, you're already in the shiur. So this is like we're going to learn more about this first paragraph because it'll help us. Like this is a lemaisa Torah, you understand? This is a very lemaisa teaching. One of the most lemaisa teachings I've ever learned in my life. It's lemaisa and not just lemachshava. It's the most lemaisa. I don't know how to say lemaisa properly in English. Because saying that it's to the point or brings to action is not exactly what lemaisa, you know what I'm talking about. Huh?
Real time.
Practical, real. Yes, and more. You wanted to say something?
Thanks. So it sounds like, based on what you're saying also about Rabbi Leo, about like practicing this muscle, this immune muscle, like you can't achieve that if that's not something you're constantly practicing. It sounds
Seems like you can't, yeah.
It sounds like the impulsive is not really that impulsive at all. Meaning
Right.
that you could practice getting to the point where
Right.
when you need to jump in, that you're ready to, because you're waiting for that moment in a way.
Right.
Meaning, yeah?
I think so, but
You're actively preparing for it,
Mm.
and you're getting stronger and stronger, just like swimming.
But by actively, right, you're actively preparing for it. You're not theoretically preparing for it or in your mind preparing for it. You're actively preparing, not just for that, you're actively preparing to have to be able to jump whenever you have to jump. You know?
Because there's like a
Trusting
preparation.
one's intuition.
There's a preparation also in just
Yeah.
in trust and in letting go. So I'm saying the more you practice that, then it's really not that impulsive at all.
Right?
You know?
I gave one mashal. I can't believe I'm saying this for the third time this week because I try to never bring these mashals, but it's so shayach about Kobe Bryant. Did anyone hear this already? Right? So Kobe Bryant, you know who he is? He was killed in a horrible helicopter accident with his daughter. Shem Yishmar. Anyway, so he was like one of the greatest basketball stars ever. Really, he played in the LA team. And he really always took those last second shots. That how could you say that how could you? And quite often, like more than not, he was banging them out. He was mamish like just winning all these crazy last second all the time. One time, a reporter asked him, "Said how do you get so lucky?" Something like that, or how do you pull that off? It's like, what do you mean? When I'm practicing, that's the mindset that I'm always practicing under. When I'm practicing like that in the court, like in the gym when that's the mindset that I have. That's what I'm thinking about. Now, nachon, it's not real time, and it doesn't. And if he scores during practice, it's not helping his contract necessarily. He has to score when he has to score. He has to make that bucket when he has to make that shot. But this is our lives are basically like that. But how would he know if he could do it or not, how could he know, like, if, it's weird to say, his obligation in this world, right? Avdil, only once he got on the court. And you have to run to get on the court. In our lives, you have to get on the court. Have to. Even when everything adds up and makes sense, you still have to jump towards the things that are really our destiny and the things that are shayach to our chovah in our world, like our obligation and our, that thing we're needed for. Both the thing I want to do and the thing that I'm needed for. First, I want to give us a bracha to find out what we want to do, find out what we're needed for. They should, as Hashem, ideally be one. But even more than that, the only way we'll know the answer to any of them is that if we're blessed with the emunah to jump and to keep on revisiting the jump into the beginning process of our avodat Hashem. And nachon, you have to b'chol yom beyu beinecha kechadashim. It's true. It's clearly on a national level here that we have to restart a lot of things, not just nationally, spiritually as well. We have to restart the connection to many, many things. I think this Yom Ha'atzmaut is a phenomenal opportunity to press a nice, what's the restart button on? It's different computers, but not delete. Chas v'shalom. Yeah, but not chalila, deleting, because we're standing on the shoulders of giants, chayalim and chayalot, that are alive in our every breath we have, we're standing, it's their breath that's breathing with us. So not chalila delete, but again, Reshit Knisat Avodat Hashem Tzichat B'Chipazon. Let's jump again into a new way of understanding the neshama of living, of everything that we have, this privilege of living here, everything what it means to be a Jew in the world, our connection to humanity, to the non-Jewish world, also a nice restart, just the whole thing, shift of consciousness, what some would call a paradigm shift, whatever you want to use to fill in this very important and an essential time in our lives. And we should and Hashem should have Rahmanas on us that this avoda can be done b'simcha. That would be nice. Amen. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.